get started. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Um, Wait, am I right? I'm not even on the right slide. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this. Yeah, I'm on the wrong one. I need to go back to the beginning. Okay. My name is Shane with Social Loco, and today we're going to be talking how to convert your leads to sale, um, and what you need to know if you're generating leads online. If you're working with an ads manager or an advertising agency and you're advertising on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, just about any platform at all, and somehow or another you're driving traffic to a lead generation page, for instance, and you're offering more information or a free giveaway or anything, and somebody has to put in their name and their email address in order to get that information. They're opting in for something that generates a lead for you, and you're hoping, right, that lead is going to convert to a sale. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about how to be sure that you're actually doing everything that you can do in order to make sure that you're not just collecting email addresses for no good reason. Now, here's what you need to know about the new approach that is digital marketing. And that is that you need to change your mindset if you're an old school salesperson. So if you've been around the block a few times and you kind of fancy yourself as being somebody who is good in sales because you're good at face-to-face sales or you're good at phone sales, right? You're good at breaking the barrier between you and your prospect and building trust and rapport, pricing a job appropriately, right? And and you think, yeah, you're pretty good at sales, but you're doing it the old way. You're doing it the way that you did it in the 1990s. It's not going to work in this day and age. I'm sorry to tell you, but digital marketing and the way that we're using it now is vastly different than it was even just 5 years ago, the way we're generating leads. So if you haven't shifted your thinking, your perspective, your philosophy, your methodology in order to align yourself with this new idea, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You're not going to be as successful as you want to be. So moving forward, who is this training for particularly? It is for those that are selling high ticket luxury products or services primarily. If you're generating leads online and you're selling something that's of a higher price nature, in the thousands of dollars as opposed to the hundreds of dollars, then this would be a good option for you. Because if you're selling something cheap, right? If you're selling something inexpensive, then chances are you're running an ad straight to a checkout page and people are going to be able to just buy now, right? But if you're selling something very expensive, then that's going to require a conversation, and that's what you would be more inclined to generate leads for. So what are these high ticket luxury products? Well, maybe it's cars. Maybe you're a car dealership. That would be one. Maybe you sell jewelry, or high end, clothing. Um, Maybe not clothing. That's probably closer to the hundreds of dollars and the thousands of dollars in most cases. Although, you could spend a lot of money for a Gucci bag or something like that. That would probably be a different sale process. Home improvement, that's a big category for lead generation. If you're a builder, or if you're a roofer, or a pool builder, if you're doing high-end landscaping services. So this could be a good training for you. I think this will apply there. So anything that's going to cost, in upwards of several $1,000s, real estate. This would be a good training for you as well if you fit that category. Um, there's two types of leads. This is what you need to know when it comes to direct sale. You got outbound and inbound, and we can go into all kinds of different, categories, subcategories, and nuances of leads. I'm going to spare you all the boring details. For all intents and purposes, for this training, all you need to know is outbound and inbound. Outbound is when you're reaching out to the prospect. Inbound is then when they're reaching out to you. So a couple examples of that. In outbound, you maybe direct mail, right? Cold calling, cold canvassing, going door to door. A couple of examples of inbound leads would be them opting in for an offer, your prospect, them filling out a form on your website, or calling into your office asking for more details or information. There are more, but for the purpose of this training, we're just going to try to keep it simple and move it along. More specifically, though, we're going to be focusing on inbound because inbound's better. Inbound, them contacting you is always better than you trying to chase them. So that's an ideal scenario. Is they're trying to reach you. They're opting into your form. They're generating the lead for you, as opposed to you just calling, random people and seeing if they're in the market for what you're selling. That's not to say that you shouldn't do that. I mean, that can be quite effective, especially in a B2B type of relationship. Okay, that type of dynamic. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out to other businesses. It doesn't work in this day and age. It's not as effective as it used to be for targeting consumers. So how can we acquire leads? There's multiple ways that you can do that. For the purpose of this training, we're just going to talk about advertising to your target segment because that's the most obvious answer right there. So you're basically placing ads in various places or in one particular place, and you're trying to reach the people that you believe have the highest propensity of buying or having an interest in what it is that you're offering. I want to talk just a minute about lead quality because a lot of times people reach out to us and they tell us that they want to abandon their advertising agency and work with us because even though the company that they're working with is generating leads, they're bad leads, they're poor quality leads, and they want to improve their quality of leads. So what is a high quality lead, a low quality lead? A quality lead is a qualified lead. Okay, a quality lead is anybody who expressed an interest in what it is that you're serving, and they knew what they were opting in for. Okay, so the definition, as I have it written here, which is one that's very noteworthy. A quality lead is anyone who opted in recently to a clearly defined offer. So what do I mean by clearly defined offer? That means if, let's suppose you're running an ad and you say, enter here for a chance to win a brand new Mercedes. And you go, okay, yeah, sure, why not? You click through, you give them your name, email address, phone number, right? 2 days later, somebody calls you to offer you the new American Express card. And you're thinking, wait a minute, what? That doesn't even make any sense. And at first you don't even know why or how they got your information or why they're calling you. Then you find out later on it's because you entered to win a car. What does the car have to do with American Express? Absolutely nothing. Okay, that's an unqualified lead. So as long as you clearly define the offer, this is what you're opting in for. If you give us your name and email address, we're going to give you something in return. And a lot of times it's nothing more than just more information. That's it. To learn more, click here, right? Give us your email address and we'll send you more information. And sometimes that's really all you need to do. I know a lot of people, they spend a lot of time getting very creative about giving, free reports and things like that. And you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I just wouldn't recommend it unless if you needed to go there. If you could give them less, then that's a much better option, I think, in my opinion. When we're running advertisements for local restaurants, for instance, sometimes all we have to do is just ask if they want to see the menu. Would you like to see the new spring menu? Click here and give us your name and email address, and we'll send it to you. And then we get their email address, and we didn't really do anything for it. In fact, they could have gone to the client's website and gotten the menu. But it was there, so they did it. So a lot of times you don't really need to do a whole lot to get the lead, but just make sure that if they're opting in for a menu, that you're sending them a menu. it has to be congruent. So as long as they know what they're signing up for, then they shouldn't have any problem with you delivering as you had promised. If they filled out a form, then they have an interest. They have an interest. So by default, they're qualified, right? Nobody would say, imagine if I was running an ad to learn more about medical testing equipment. Maybe it's this new, I don't know, a new open MRI, right? And I go, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. Why would anybody in their right mind want to get more information about MRI equipment or MRI testing if they didn't have a prescription for one or think that they would need one, right? This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. If I was selling, say, swimming pool chemicals and I say, is your pool water green? Click here to learn more. And somebody clicks through and they put in their name and their email address. Why would they do that if they didn't have an interest? So are your leads qualified? If they're current. That's what you see. Notice it says a quality lead is anyone who opted in recently. Right? So sometimes, people sell lists of leads. They could be, 5 years old. Does that mean that person's still in the market today? No. But if they filled out a form yesterday, there was a reason why they clicked on the ad. There was a reason why it captured their attention. And there was a reason why they put forth the effort to actually fill in the forms and send it off. And they clearly knew what they were signing up for because you made sure that it was clear to them. So if all those things are in alignment, right, that lead is a quality lead. So don't let yourself be fooled in thinking that it's anything but, because it doesn't look like it's going to convert to a sale. And that's really the primary principle that we're discussing today, is how to convert the lead into a sale, even when you think the lead might not be very good per se. Okay, it's good if they match all the criteria, right? You're looking for somebody who makes $500,000 a year, and this person makes $500,000 a year, right? You're looking for somebody who owns a boat, and this person owns a boat. Oh, that's another category I forgot to mention. That would be a good luxury category if you're in boat sales, yacht sales, small watercraft. This would be good training for you because you're generating leads. You got your ad agency giving you piles of leads every month, and you're having difficulty converting them. Then stay with me, because we're getting there. All right. But don't blame it on the lead. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say here. Don't blame it on the lead. You've got a name and an email address, right, of somebody who saw your ad, clicked it for a reason, then took the time to fill out the information, and it said, get more information about this, and they filled it out. What do they want? They want more information. Are you providing it to them? Because if you're not, then your chances of ever converting that lead into a sale is very, very slim or non-existent. So if they clicked on a learn more button, they're expecting to learn more. They're expecting that you're going to have a system in place that's going to do that for them. So it's really not lead quality that you should be concerned about. It should be human quality. Because the human condition plays a part in lead conversion regardless of the origin, regardless of where the lead came from, regardless if it's a Facebook lead or a Google lead. And I often hear this argument. People say, oh, Facebook leads are better than Google leads, and here's why. They're not better. They're both human beings who have expressed an interest in what you're offering. So regardless of where the lead comes from, it's still a lead. But don't think that there's any one source and where all the leads are just going to magically convert. Oh, I really like these. These are perfect leads. These are great leads. Yeah, of course you're going to think a lead that, if you get on the phone with somebody who's really excited, they're like, yeah, that sounds good. What do we do next? Right? Then yeah, you're going to think that's a good lead. But if you want to look at this objectively and realistically, right? All names and email addresses of people who match the criteria of what you're looking for, who have expressed an interest in your product or service, is a quality lead. And if that lead is not converting, don't blame it on the platform. Oh, Facebook doesn't work, Google doesn't work, YouTube doesn't work. Don't blame it on the person, the quality lead, because you're still going to have to deal with the human dynamic. Some people are just weird. You're going to get them on the phone. It's not going to make any sense. And you're going to think to yourself, why would this person even fill this thing out? This is a horrible lead. Well, you're going to have those experiences because you're still dealing with the human condition, right? Oh, I didn't realize it was that much money. Well, then why would you fill this out? Well, how much money could you possibly have thought this was going to be? You thought you were going to get a Mercedes for 30 grand? That's not going to happen. What was this guy thinking? And you're all upset. You just paid $100 for a lead. It's not going to convert. You're not going to close all your leads, and you know this. You know this, right? There's no such thing as a 100% closing ratio. It doesn't happen. I mean, maybe if you get one lead and you convert that one lead, okay, you got a 100% conversion ratio, right? But I'm talking about over time. Nobody averages 100%. It's impossible. It just won't happen. And you know this. You're not expecting to close 100%, are you? Well, how many are you expecting? How many are you expecting to close? Do you know the answer to that? If you don't, it's worth a consideration. Or otherwise, you're just kind of haphazardly guessing at this whole thing. And you're spending money every month. You might actually be throwing money away when it comes down to it because you haven't thought this through yet. So let's think it through. I want you to be realistic in your expectations here. And let's break it down. Okay? Let's see how the math breaks down. I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario, okay? Let's assume that you get 25 leads over the course of a month. That would be pretty good in most situations. If you're selling houses and you get 25 leads, you're doing good. If you're selling cars and you got 25 leads, you're doing good. If you're selling swimming pools, roofs, right? 25 leads is good numbers. Not all of our clients get those numbers. It depends on two things. Number one, their ad spend and the size of the local market. Well, and the people who are competing in that local market, which coincides with ad spend. I'm not going to get too into detail about that because it's more about ads, and that's another training for another time. So for all intents and purposes, because our clients will get somewhere between, on the low side, 10 leads, on the high side, 50 leads. In a 1 month period. And, it really depends on a lot of different variables. Because the chances are, you're going to fall somewhere in between. If you get a high conversion ratio, well, then you can do really well with low numbers. But I think this is a good median right here. Let's just say 25 leads, right? That's what we're going to assume. Out of that 25 leads, what does that mean? How many of those are going to do what? In my experience, about 50% of those will never, ever buy. And we don't know why. You won't know whether or not they ever buy, but chances are they never will. Right? Let me tell you a story. Okay? Because this is the reason why. This story takes place a couple of years ago. My wife and I, we went to a boat show. Why did we go to a boat conference, a boat show? We went there to look for a boat. We were thinking about shopping around for a boat, and we were seriously contemplating the idea. We live in Florida. We're surrounded by water. We don't own a boat. We felt like there was something wrong with that. So, and I'm a boating enthusiast. I used to own a boat. I really enjoy it. And I think it'd be a great thing to do with the family. When we got there, we realized that they all exceeded the towing capacity of our small crossover SUV. It's something I never really considered because when I bought it, I wasn't thinking about, buying a boat. So what do you think we did after the boat show? I guess what anybody else would do. We went and traded our car for a larger full-size SUV. with towing capacity to pull a boat. So to kind of give you an indication of how serious we were about making the purchase of a boat. And this is a couple years ago, so you might be thinking, well, how's the boat going now? Well, it never happened. It never happened. If you ask me why didn't you get the boat? I don't really have a good answer for you, except that life happened. It's a luxury thing, and the luxury things always get stuffed down, don't they? And the priorities rise to the top, and other things just took precedence. We moved, we relocated our home shortly thereafter, so that took a lot of our attention and our energy. And then other life events happened. My daughter started school, and so life happens. That's why. Why didn't they do that home renovation project? Because life happened. Okay. And so even though they might be shopping around now, about half of those leads that you have is an idea. It's just an idea. We had this idea and it sounded cool, and I saw your ad and I opted in. Right? You're trying to close them, but guess what? No one will ever close them. Just like nobody ever sold me a boat. We even went to a couple local boat stores aside from the boat show. And everybody was vying for my business. Boat sales guys wanted to sell me a boat, and they never closed it. And they're trying to figure out why that lead never closed. And none of them know that it's because that guy never, ever bought the boat. And you probably have a similar experience, right? That vacation that you were planning for a long time that just never happened. Why didn't it happen? Because life happened. And that's the reality of the situation. You're not going to close everybody. You know this. Don't expect to. And be content with the fact that a certain percentage will not close, and it's not your fault. Nobody's going to close them. So don't expect to. That's all. So that leaves you with about 12 and a half people, right? We started with 25. Half of them aren't going to buy. You got 12 and a half people left in your pile of leads here. Half of those, approximately half of those, you're going to lose to one of your competitors. And you'll never know. You'll never know who it was. You'll never know that they bought or who they bought from. And if for any reason you ever did find out in the future why they bought from a competitor, or that they did buy from a competitor, you wouldn't know why. You wouldn't know why. They wouldn't know why. It could have just been one thing on their website that attracted their attention and kept them there a little bit longer. It could have been one thing that a sales guy said on the phone that you didn't. It could have been a whole multitude of things. And it may not be that you botched something, that you messed it up. But for whatever reason, they just felt more compelled to deal with that other guy. Because they wanted a steel roof. And most of the roofing photographs on your website were Spanish tile, which they didn't want. And your competitor had mostly steel roofs on their portfolio. This is assuming that you're a roofer, of course, right? I'm trying to talk to everybody here who's, fits a valid criteria for this type of training. And that's not to say that the guy who has the Spanish tile roofs on his portfolio, on his website, can't do as good or better of a job doing a steel roof than the person who won the job. But that might have been it. That might have been the only reason. That was the tipping point right there. And that's why, that person went with a competitor. So about half of those you're going to lose to a competitor more than likely at some point, right? So out of that 12 and a half, this is about what, 6 1/4? Let's round it down to 6. 6 people. So out of 25 leads, you really only have 6 leads that you're actually going to be able to close. Half of those are planning ahead. They're thinking ahead. This is a longer term scenario, right? They're planning that roofing project, that they're going to build a new deck on the back of the house. That deck's going to cost them, I don't know. They're going to do the deck and the landscaping. The whole project's going to cost them $20,000. And that's not something they're going to just do overnight. They're going to shop around. They're going to see, they're going to get several quotes. It's going to take them some time. Those solar panels that they're going to put on the roof. It's going to take them some time. They're going to shop around. They're going to get multiple prices, right? They're thinking spring. They're thinking summer. Not, and right now it might be winter. So you could close all 6 of these, but it's not going to happen overnight. So you need to be patient. And a lot of times when somebody's spending thousands of dollars a month on advertisements, it's difficult to try to convince them to be patient. But if you are, it could pay you dividends later on. You have to be in it for the long game. If you're looking for a quick fix, short turnaround, make lots of money right now, online advertising isn't always the best way to do that, because the sales cycle is like any other. And if you're in the high ticket, if you're playing the high ticket game, you know how it goes, right? You got the whole proposal thing, and that could take some time, and then you're going to send it to them. They're going to go say, what about this and what about that? And you go, okay, yeah, we'll just revise the proposal, and you put that together, and oh, can we add this? Oh, well, yeah, we can, but I got to come out and do more measurements, and you got to go back out to the house, right? For those of you who are in the home service industry, because this is very relevant to you. I know a lot of you are. So think about that for a minute. Think about six prospects that could close later on, right? Let's say half of these, about 3 of them. 3 of them are not going to close right away. They're planning ahead, right? So let's suppose those 3 are planning for the next 6 months. And then next month we get another 3 that's planning for the next 6 months. And then next month we get another 3 that's planning for the next 6 months. Right? So what happens? What happens 6 months from now? We get, 3 plus 3 plus 3 people who are ready to buy right now. I'm telling you, it's a long-term game. You have to mentally prepare yourself for that. And make sure that, that if you're doing it yourself, you know what you're doing. If somebody else is doing it for you, that they know what they're doing. And if you're not sure, well, get clarity. Get informed. Learn something. Learn something that's going to give you that. You shouldn't be working with an ad agency that you're not confident in. That you're not confident that they know what they're doing. I'm confident in my ability because I teach other ad agencies how to use our techniques and our strategies. Half of those are thinking ahead. What about the other 3? What happened to the other? They're your today leads. They're the ones who are ready to buy right now, those 3. So in the course of a month, you generated 25 leads. Only 3 of them are actually in the market now. But if each one of those you make $10,000 on, assuming that that's, your price point, $5,000, $20,000. I know you solar guys, get big projects, or some of you roofers get big projects. Landscapers, especially you guys who are doing the commercial stuff. Pool builders. Yeah, it might only be a $50,000 pool, but it could be a $150,000 pool. And today you don't get much pool for $50,000. It's not like it was 10 years ago. You want a decent pool, it's going to cost you some money, and if you're pricing it right, you should be making money off of that. Imagine that at the end of the month, 3 new leads who are ready right now. They're ready right now. So you might look at this at first glance and say, wow, 25 leads and nobody's buying. Nobody's buying. How many are you expecting to buy? What are you expecting out of 25 leads? This is what you should be expecting. The number that's on the screen right here. 3. That's it. Nothing more. I mean, this is an average. It could be 2. It could be 4. But in my experience, over the course of the last, I'd say decade, using, digital media in the way that we're using it today, with varying degrees of strategies and techniques that have been tweaked over time and continue to do so, I would say that you probably shouldn't realistically expect more than 3. 3 that are ready today. But are they going to convert? Are they going to buy? And the answer is, unfortunately, no, they're not. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. I'm going to tell you why. But what you need to know first is that your job is not to sell to these three people. That is not your role in this. And that's likely what you're trying to do. And you're coming up empty handed and it's frustrating you and you don't know why you're not converting. That's why I'm here today to help you out. Because you're trying to sell to these three people. That's not your role. Your role is first to identify these three people. See, your job is to sort through the leads. That's all. Don't sell anybody anything. Just sort through them, right? And identify of those 25, which are the three that have the highest likelihood to buy. That's what you need to do first and foremost. You need to qualify your prospects now. Make sure you find those three that are in the market now and those three that are in the market later that are planning ahead. You want to make sure you do not let them get away, but you want to identify who those three people are too. So you want to find those 6 people, the 3 that are ready in the future or will be, and the 3 that are ready right now. How do you do that? Let's start it. You have to recognize the signals, okay? You've heard of buying signs or buying signals, maybe, if you've taken any training, sales training classes. The good signals, these are easy. Everybody's able to recognize the positive signals. What are they? Positive signals, they respond quickly. That means you email them. Hey, I'm following up because you filled out a form, right, on a relating to an ad that we were running on Facebook. And they get back to you in 10 minutes and they're like, oh yeah, I would love to talk more. How's that for a lead? Yeah, that's what we want all day long, right? What's another positive signal? They know who you are, right? You call them and you say, hey, this is Bob from Bob's Roofing. And they go, oh yeah. How you doing, Bob? I was waiting for you to call. Right? You take the leads like that all day long. They actually know who you are as opposed to, I'm sorry, who is this again? Right? Oh no, you don't want to hear that, do you? You just want to hear the people go, oh yeah, thanks for calling. They're excited to hear from you. Yeah, I've been waiting for you to call. I know that I filled out the form and it said we'll be contacting you soon. And I'm pacing the floor, waiting for my phone to ring, and here you are. Thanks, Bob. Right? And there are people like that out there. They're just few and far between. You may have gotten calls like you've had these experiences before. And this in your mind, right? This is what your leads are supposed to be. You're working with an ad agency. They're feeding you leads and you're expecting that they're all going to be like this. Why? Why? Because you're spending thousands of dollars on these leads. They should all be great leads, right? What's a great lead? You remember what a great lead is? Somebody who filled out a form. That's it. Somebody who filled out a form recently. That's it. Right? They expressed an interest in what you have. That makes them a qualified lead. A positive lead, right? A positive signal would be somebody who does all the talking. And you go, so what was attracted you to the ad? What is it that you're looking for? Well, let me tell you, Bob. You know, my wife and I were talking about this, this project we've got here at home, right? And they go on, and you're like, okay, right? 20 minutes later, they're still going on about their dreams and their visions and how they're hoping that you might be the guy to bring it all to life, right? They're positive signals, aren't they? They're people who ask questions. So let me ask you this, Bob. So basically, your process is you come out to the home, right? You take measurements, and if you could just kind of walk me through that process a little bit. Perfect. And so, how soon after you come out would you be able to get me a proposal? Right? That's a perfect. This is a perfect lead, isn't it? You take these all day long. You pay thousands of dollars for these all day long, wouldn't you? Yeah, everybody would, right? But remember I said you're dealing with humans. I don't care where the lead came from. The reality is that life happens every day for everybody. Some people are going to be tired. Some people will be sick. Some people will not be in the mood to talk to you. Okay? They're not in the mood to go through a divorce either, but they are right at the time, right? They're at the lowest point in their life right now, and you call them to talk about the roofing. Yeah, they filled out a form. Yeah, they're interested, but not right this minute. And what is your attitude? Are you respectful of that? You're going to dismiss them? You're going to disqualify them? Oh, these aren't good leads. Come on, that speaks more of your character than it does of them. Okay? They expressed an interest. And until they tell you, no, I am no longer interested, then you put them in your database and you follow up with them accordingly. And you do it in the appropriate manner. What is the appropriate manner, you may ask? Good question. We're going to get into that in just a minute. Another positive signal is somebody who solicits the follow-up. They're like, okay, so can you call me back tomorrow when my wife's here and we can kind of all get on the speakerphone together and discuss it? And you go, yeah, sure. You didn't have to ask them, when can we schedule a follow-up call? They asked you. Perfect candidate, right? Here's the negative signals. Here's the stuff that you don't like, that you're likely running into if you're working with somebody who leads and you're trying to figure out, how do I make these leads any good? Yes, but you need to understand that the reality is you're going to get what you might consider negative signals too. What you have to do is be able to interpret them. I'm going to help you interpret the perceived negative signals right now. Bogus information. What does that mean? They gave you the wrong phone number. What does that mean? What does that translate to? Well, there's only a couple of reasons for that. There's only a couple of reasons why somebody would give you the wrong phone number. They don't want you to call them. Come on, that's a no-brainer. Anybody could figure that out. Or a second reason is they might have genuinely, had a typo. They put the wrong number in the wrong place. It happens. Or thirdly, they didn't want to be texted by you because they weren't sure if you were going to do that or not. They might put in the wrong email address, but the right phone number because they would prefer to be called as opposed to emailed. So typically we see a lot of wrong numbers for this reason. When you're dealing with a high ticket luxury item, they know they're going to get called by a sales rep, right? If you are a Mercedes dealer, right, and somebody just opted in for more information on a $90,000 vehicle, right, they know they're going to get called by a sales rep. Nobody in their right mind would not call that lead. And if they do not want to be called because they've already spoken to 5 sales reps, right? They're on the list of 5 people already, and they're getting bombarded by calls daily, twice a day from 3 of them, right? They don't want another guy calling them. So they're going to give you the wrong phone number. And you might think, this isn't even a real lead. Of course it's a real lead. They just don't want to talk to you right now. They're one of those planning ahead people. You need to be able to understand that and recognize it. Nobody's going to click through an ad and intentionally put a wrong phone number in just to mess with you, right? So typically we don't even put a phone number field in our ads. We don't, for that reason. The only time we do is if a client opts out of, say, an email marketing campaign, and we want to make sure that they have a fighting chance of being able to close the sale. So we say, look, if we're not going to be doing your email marketing for you, then we want to at least give you the phone number field so you have the option to maybe try to call them. And I'll tell you why calling them is not the best option in just a couple of minutes. The other thing you're going to get, one of those negative signals, is excuses. And they'll come up with all kinds of good stuff. They'll tell you that they don't remember filling out a form. They'll tell you that they don't even know what you're talking about. Like Mercedes, I'm not even in the market for Mercedes. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. And you're going to be like totally befuddled and think, well, why did this happen? And again, it's that human condition. We don't really know why. Why are they giving you an excuse? because something happened. And I'll tell you, here's a real common scenario that we see, right? The let's say the wife, for instance, um, sees an ad and really likes what they see. Maybe it's landscaping, flowers and trees, beautiful landscaping, and she's thinking about doing this for the house. And she's been talking about it for like the last year and a half. She's trying to convince her husband to go for this beautiful, like she wants to put a koi pond in the yard, right? Light it up real nice. So she opts in. And then, you email her, you call her. She hasn't had a chance to talk to her husband yet. He comes home from work and she says, honey, I found this company. And I got their information and they sent me an email. And they do the landscaping. And he says, look, we've had this conversation already. We're going to do the back deck. We have to finish the insulation in the attic. The air conditioner is now making that noise. And we're we're going to need a new roof within the next 5 years. That's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'd love to do the landscaping. I just don't think we're there right now. Right? And then you call her. You call her up. Hey, call him because you expressed interest. And she goes, yeah, no, that wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. No, not here. No, we're not interested. Sorry. So what you should do when if you're calling people as opposed to emailing them, right? You can really pick up signals in a way that you can't when you're emailing them, right? You know what they're thinking sometimes if you're reading them right. Pry for information. Figure out what's really going on. If they say, "Oh no, we're not interested," call them on it. Call them on. What do you mean you're not interested? You filled out a form, didn't you? Obviously you need to do that tactfully and not, in the same tone that I just said it. Oh, okay. So did you find somebody else to do your project already? Make sure you have a list of comeback lines for those types of objections. You only need to make a couple calls to see what your common objections are, right? Or the common excuses. So make sure you have a good rebuttal. Take some time to think about it. It's worth it. If you're spending thousands of dollars on advertising every month, spend a couple of minutes in thinking about what to say to these people. Seriously, plan it out. It's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. We can walk you through it too. If at some point, if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. No response. This is a common one, right? You call, right? And you get voicemail. Well, that's common. Nobody answers their phone. Very rarely. Especially if it's a strange number. They don't know who you are. Why would they answer it? They're going to wait until you leave voicemail, and then they're going to decide whether or not they should call you back. Right? No response. You're going to email them. You don't hear anything back. So what does that mean? It probably means that they just don't have anything to talk about right now. It said learn more. They clicked to learn more. They want more information. Are you doing your job and adequately providing them with additional information so that when they're closer to reaching the point and where they're going to make a decision about who they're going to contract with, is it going to be you? Or will you be out of sight, out of mind? Will they begin their search looking for somebody that does exactly what you do in the area that they want it done in? I mean, this is a perfect scenario. You got this great lead. If you nurture the lead, you can close it later on. You're probably not going to close it today. But if you're smart about this and playing the long game, right, and accumulating leads and working them properly, you should see a steady increase in your sales conversions. Denial. Yeah, denial is really common. We already talked about that. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't fill out that form. They're just embarrassed now because they filled out a form, right? And their husband shot them down, right? And then you called, and it's going to make up anything. Keep in mind, folks, that when it comes to the no response that we just spoke about, no response, right? Give them a reason to respond. If you're not using a script in your voicemail, make sure you write one out. I mean, you think, well, why do I need a script? Why do I need to script a voicemail? I was just saying, hi, this is Shane from Social Loco calling because you expressed some interest in an advertisement that we were running on Facebook, about how we might be able to generate leads for your business and set up lead generation systems so that you can get new clients. If you want to give me a call back, you could do so at this number, or you can email me at this number and then I hang up, right? Do I need to write that down? I don't need to write that down. That's ridiculous. I can do that right off the top of my head. That's what you're thinking. That's why you didn't write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Don't let your salespeople, or if it's you, don't let you get tongue-tied over this. Okay? Make sure it flows out and it flows out with confidence. And you're not, like that the whole time. All right? Let it roll off your tongue. And make sure, and when you write it out, it gets nicer. You put in words that you wouldn't normally say until you've given it, ample amount of thought. And you're like, oh, I like how this sounds better. Finesse. That's what you're looking for. Finesse. Because at the end of the day, when they do call you back, they're not going to necessarily know why. They're just going to have a good feeling about you. And that'll be enough for them to call you. And they won't be able to put their finger on the reason why they felt good about you. And you won't necessarily know either. Make sure you smile when you talk, because that is heard. Your smile can be heard. Whether you know it or not, it sure can. Right? Make sure you got good posture. Make sure you're telling your salespeople this. It makes a difference. If you're slumped over in your seat and you're lacking self-confidence and you're mumbling, guess what? I have a sore throat at the moment, by the way. So if it sounds like I'm not taking my own advice, that's why. But normally I sound more confident myself. So move on. Spouse is a common one. Let me talk to my husband. Let me talk to my wife. I'll get back to you. Then they talk, and we already talked about this. Pricing. Price objection, right? You targeted people who make $500,000 and up. Surely they should be able to afford a $90,000 vehicle. Well, you don't know that. Don't make that assumption, right? Because you hear stories all the time about people who are, make way more money than that are flat broke, claiming bankruptcy. You never know what somebody's personal situation is, or maybe they just don't want to invest so much. Maybe they're looking for a home project, right? They want to put the new roof on, but not because they want a new roof, but because they have to put a new roof on because they're about to sell the home. And then you come in and you talk about quality materials and how it's going to last them for 50 years. They don't care. They're flipping the house. They just want to get it over the curb. You know what I'm saying? They want a cheap roof. They don't want to spend a lot of money on a roof. They don't want to hear about the quality materials. They don't care. And you're thinking, oh, this isn't a qualified lead. It's not a good lead for you. They didn't know how much they've never priced a roof before. And if you're a roofer, you know this about your industry. There's always I don't care who you are, right? Let's say you're a pool builder. Somebody buys a new home and it's got a yard. This is their first home. You think they know anything about getting a pool in the backyard? All they know is they've got room for it and they would love to do it, right? And when they walked through the house and they took that tour, they went out back and they were like, look at this. We can put a pool right there. We can put a spa over there. We could do a rock waterfall, over here. Oh man, this could be beautiful. A little outdoor kitchen area, right? They're dreaming. And then suddenly what happens? Next day, your ad pops up. Build the pool of your dreams. Are you a new homeowner? And yes, we can target those people. We can deliver ads to those people, right? And that person might make plenty of money according to your specifications. But they have no idea what a pool costs. They just don't know. They've never priced it before. They've never been in the market for a pool. The only reason why they're contacting you is because your ad appeared. Nobody else's did. So you got the lead. Is it a good lead? Yeah, it's a good lead because we know that the guy's financially qualified, or at least we can assume that he is, but we don't know. We don't know this couple's particular scenario. They might not. They could be disqualified. But a quality lead versus an inferior lead is not the same as qualified and disqualified. Qualified and disqualified happens after it gets into your pipeline, after it's into your CRM, after you're working the leads, and at some point you realize this guy is no longer interested because you came in and said, well, a small poll is going to cost you at least $50,000, and it's going to be a rectangle, but the free form poll with the waterfall that you're talking about, it's going to be much more. And he goes, oh man, really? They're that much money? And you're thinking, oh, here we go. Oh, I got a price shopper on my hands, right? And all you guys who are selling high ticket items think this way, don't you? No, we all do. We all do. And it's natural. You're selling something of a high value, right? There's a high price involved in it. And I consider myself to be in that category as well. Our services are not cheap, but our clients make a lot of money as a result of our services, so it's worth it to them. And we do a lot of work over time. We produce a lot of material for our clients, a lot of content, and their campaigns get stronger and stronger as we, and there's value there. Value in what you do. There's value in what you bring to the table, but there's always going to be that person who's price shopping and they just don't know the market. They don't know how much it's going to cost. So we already talked about this, why somebody would put in a bogus number. And then there's a couple, we could break down each one of those if we want to, but I think we've already did a good job. How should you be following up on leads? I want to talk about this. This is important. People are generally taken aback by replies that are not of like kind. Think about that for a minute. People are generally taken aback by replies that are not of like kind. That means you email somebody and they text you back. That doesn't mean you're offended. It doesn't mean you're, freaked out, right? It just means you're a little taken aback. Oh, that's weird. I kind of emailed them and then I got a text from them, or you call your mother to say, happy Mother's Day, and she sends you an email back saying, I got your call, thanks. Right? And you're like, what? Wait, what? That was weird. Right? So psychologically speaking, it's always practical. It's always smart to reply to people in the way that they originally reached out to you. So if you're running a digital campaign, you should be replying to them in a digital fashion. That doesn't mean that you can't reply to them in other ways, but there is a bit of a chasm between one medium and the next, right? You want to take a digital relationship to an analog relationship, taking it from, email to telephone, right? Because that's the way you like to operate. But everybody likes to communicate in their own way. Okay. And if you want to close more sales, let me tell you, you need to start communicating the way that your prospect likes to be communicated with. Right? You try sending them Morse code or smoke signals, you're probably not going to close the deal. Very few people like to communicate in this way, in this day and age. And let me tell you something, email is extremely effective for the 30 plus crowd. Okay? But the 20 to 30 crowd, not so much. They're using Snapchat, right? You probably don't even know what Snapchat is. It's not, that's not your thing. It's not your generation. But that's how they communicate. Instead of asking for each other's email address, they ask for each other's Snap. This is true. This is what's happening on college campuses right now. So, you need to be aware of that. That's how you would communicate with a 23-year-old, right? So if that's your target market, you need to be on Snapchat, right? Social media for the younger generation. 30 plus, email. What about direct mail? Direct mail is a little old fashioned, but if you're going for a more mature crowd, I would say 50 plus. Yeah, direct, they're still checking their mailbox. They're still reading that. And that's not to say that, somebody 40 is not, going through, direct mail is not going to work for them. I'm just telling you that statistically, based on our experience anyway, older crowd is still using paper. Young crowd is using social. In between, though, there's a big gap. That's 30 all the way up to 60. 30 to 60. That's 30. That's 3 decades there that are replying to email. Okay. So remember, digital lead should receive a digital follow-up before anything, for a phone call or anything. Digital leads should receive a digital follow-up. Keep it congruent. Keep the continuity, right? That's going to make more sense. Anything else is going to make you look pushy. And this is one of the reasons why we don't put the phone number field in most of our opt-ins. Because if somebody fills out a form and 10 minutes later they get a phone call, that freaks some people out. They're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, you said, somebody will contact you. And I figured, well, I gave you my phone number so that you might contact me by phone. I just wasn't expecting it to be now. And so when will they be expecting your call? And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go as far as to say that an effective email strategy is imperative. If you don't have an effective email strategy in place, you could be throwing some money away. You're generating leads, but you're not replying to the leads appropriately. Chances are you're only sending one email out saying, hey, I'm following up because you filled out a form. And that's not good enough. Maybe you'll do that a second time. Anything more than that would be considered harassment by most people's standards. Remember, it's okay to email. If somebody opts in, they're expecting you to email them. They gave you their email address. They knew what they were signing up for. There was a little terms of service there that says, by giving us your email address, right? If they chose to read it, if you give us your email address, you agree to the following. And that following says that we will email you as often as we want. And that might be pretty frequent. And a lot of people don't email people. They don't email their prospects. A lot of business owners don't email their prospects as frequently as they should because they don't want to come off as harassing. They don't want to be excessive. They want to be overly, ambitious. But let me tell you something. If they've opted in, they're expecting you to email them. Just make sure to be tactful when you're doing it. Don't email them 5 times a day. It's completely unnecessary. So I'm going to go through a couple of guidelines for you that it's important to know as you're emailing. Make sure you offer value in your emails. Don't just say, hey, I'm following up. Hey, I'm following up. Hey, I'm following up. Hey, are you still interested? Right? Because now it's all about you, isn't it? Think about what they might be wondering about your company or your service. Get inside their head a little bit and answer their questions in the form of an email. Send them helpful, valuable information. And then you won't be pestering them. You'll be helping them along in the process. And in the interim, you'll be building relationship. You'll be building trust and rapport. And when it comes time for them to be ready, they'll know who they can turn to get the job done right. Be consistent. Be consistent in your email efforts. Don't send somebody one email a month, right, who's on your email list, and then start sending them an email, once a day. Pick it. Figure out what it is that you're going to do and be consistent. Use multiple sequences. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you've got a 5-part email sequence when somebody opts in for your offer, right? You made an offer, you ran an ad, somebody opted in, and you want to say thank you, right? And then maybe it doesn't turn into anything, right? There's no proposal that ever happens, never takes place, and you don't know what happened to them. They're unresponsive, but they're still on your list. So you put them into another email sequence, and that email sequence is going to be a series of helpful emails. So it's good to be able to segregate those types of emails. We build the rapport later on. Initially, we want to make sure that if they have some immediate questions or an immediate need, It doesn't end up going to your competitor. We don't want to waste our time, drag our feet getting in touch with these people because they might have a need today, but it might be 6 months from now. We don't really know. Your job is to figure that out. Remember to sort through the leads and figure out who is who. Of those 25 in our example, how many of them are never going to buy? How many of them are going to buy within the next 6 months? How many are ready right now? And this is how we do this, right? If you send them out an email and they don't reply, that gives you information. If you send out multiple emails, and each one says a different thing, they might reply to one thing, but not necessarily another. And that's going to give you some information about it. Be persistent in your efforts. Don't stop. Don't stop. My wife was just telling me, and she works with our company as well. And she was telling me the other day about how she just got an ad for a floral company. They do floral arrangements. And this is a company that she bought flowers from 15 years ago from my mother. After my mother got home from surgery, my wife sent her some flowers. She bought it from this company. My wife has not bought flowers since then. I have, but she hasn't. But she said that if she had a need to buy flowers, she would know exactly who she would buy it from. She'd buy it from the person who is sending her emails persistently for the last 15 years. Could you imagine that? Local florist shop. And she's still, to this day, 15 years later, still getting emails. Man, I got to give them credit. How many of us, even myself, we do email marketing here, but I've never email marketed to somebody, the same person, for 15 years. That's beyond me. So I give them a lot of credit. I mean, they're doing it right. They're doing it right. That's for sure. So this is what my sequence looks like. This is the sequence that we use right here. And I'm going to go through it with you step by step. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this is the only sequence that you should use, but this is an effective one. So let's suppose that they click an ad and they opt in. They give you their name and their email address, and in some cases their phone number, right? Well, in this case, we're going to say phone number, and the first thing that we're going to do is send them a text. That's what number one is, SMS, now or later. And what that means is that we're going to ask. We're going to say thank you for reaching out to Social Loco about your local advertising needs for your small business. Do you have an interest in getting a price quote now, or are you interested for future reference? Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing here, right? But you should write it down. Write something down that's really good. You're just basically asking them if there's an immediate need or a future need. And this is going to get you the information that you want right away as you're sorting through that list of 25 in our example, right? Remember I said half of them aren't going to buy, and the other half are going to go to your competitor, and half of the 6 that are remaining are looking ahead. This is going to tell you what group they fit into, or at least initially, right? Please respond with by replying with either now or later. Just give them the option for a one-word answer. That's it. And watch them say now or later. And you say, and that's it. That's it. And then you follow up later on that. Now or later. You want to try to get some engagement right away. If you have their phone number, right? Why not? You just got to be careful with text messaging, because the law is about texting people, and spamming people through text are very strict. So you want to make sure that your policies, your terms of service, when they opted in, mention that you're going to be texting them. So that's really important. And that's not an arbitrary rule that nobody follows. It's one that it's actually quite pursued. So you don't want to mess up on that. Now that text message should be automated. There's software that'll do that for you. There's several on the market. There's nothing that stands out in my mind particularly that works better than any other. You're going to be spending a lot of time texting every lead if you do that manually. And that's something that should fire right away. As soon as they opt in, because it's going to keep your business name in the front of their mind. And that's important. That's important. You want to make sure that they see the name of your business. That way, when you call them later on or email them later on, they've seen that name before. They're more inclined to remember you and say, what? Who are you? Because you will get that. Because these might be people who are, they're opting into like 5 things a day. Okay. Then we get a thank you for your interest. And you mentioned business name again, right? These are all emails from here on out, right? Unless if it says call, right? Thank you for your interest in social local advertising for local businesses. That's it. Just a general, generic thank you. That's all. And you want to make sure that that fires off at the same time as that text message, right? So we're just kind of hitting them, right, from different angles with your name. That's it. You're just kind of warming them up a little bit. Number 3, the sales rep calls, right? No, not calls. I'm sorry. The sales rep emails. This is an email from the sales rep. The sales rep emails and says, hey, I noticed that you filled out a form. Getting some more information. I'm going to reach out to you soon to answer any questions that you might have. In the meantime, check this out, right? Again, I'm paraphrasing. Don't repeat me verbatim, but that's the general idea. In the meantime, have a look at this. And what is a look at this? It's a link. And that link could be to, say, a page full of testimonials. And say, in the meantime, I'll be reaching out to you within the next day. But in the meantime, right, check out what some of our clients have said about our work. And you could send them a link to a page on your website. You send them a link to, a review site like Yelp or something like that. Or if you're in the home improvement business, which I've mentioned a few times, that we do some work in, it'd be, like a website like Houzz or something like that, right? So what's happening here in number 3 is that the sales rep is emailing and announcing the fact that the sales rep is going to be reaching out. Okay, I'll connect with you soon. Hey, I noticed that you filled this out, right? I'm out of the office right now today, but I'll be reaching out with you soon. In the meantime, I thought you might be interested in this. Here's a look at our portfolio, or whatever the case may be. Then number 4, right? A generic email from the company with an overview of why people love you, what separates you from everybody else, just something about your business to help them to get more familiar with the business. So what happened? The sales rep reached out just to introduce himself and provide them with helpful information. The business, right, had, reference and overview, so they're more familiar with your company now. And of course, that email had a link to your website. They browsed through that. They're more familiar with your business and your sales rep at this point. They've been properly thanked, and they've seen the name of your business 4 or 5 times. That's it. And they got this text message to start with, which also had your name of your business and showed a high level of technical proficiency. Some people will be impressed by that. Oh, wow, I filled out this form and I immediately got a text message saying thank you. That's high tech to a lot of people. They go, wow. And so if you're in a high tech industry, like you're selling solar or something like that, that might be important to your clients. If you're selling cars, right? High tech automobile, they might think, oh, wow, that's really cool. So number 5, we hit them now with retarget ads. These people opted in. Now we have their name and email address. We can take the name and email address, and we can run a second group of ads just to those people, to the people that we know have already expressed an interest. So we're now running ads to a warm market. It's a different ad, it's a different offer, right? It's a different message. But the important thing is they get to see the name of your business yet again for a second time in a different context. So they got a text from you, they got an email from you. Now they're seeing a second ad from you, which is going to give them different information than the first ad, the one that they originally responded to. And no sales happened yet, no estimate, no proposal. Nobody's contacted anybody. And by the way, everything that's happening here up to number 5 is all automated. It should be all automated. Otherwise, you're going to be spending too much time doing this stuff. And if you have somebody in your office doing it for you, you're going to be spending just too much money paying them to do something that can all be automated. There's software that will do this automatically for you, and that's what I would recommend. That's what we do. That's how we set it up. We don't have the time to do it manually. It doesn't make sense to do it manually because you want to make sure that these are spaced apart appropriately, right? So number one, the text message comes in immediately. Number two, that email, thank you for your interest, comes in immediately. Number three, the sales rep, not immediately. That might be an hour later. Hey, I noticed you filled out a form. I'll get back in touch with you soon. In the meantime, check this out. Then the overview, number four, that happens maybe the next day, right? And then the retargeting ads, maybe after you hit a certain number that you like, maybe like 100. Once 100 people opt in, you're going to take that list and you're going to run ads to those people. But it depends on how frequently you're getting leads. I think 100 might be too much. I'd prefer to run a retargeting ad to those people much sooner. It depends on the platform, how many you need to be able to run an ad specifically to those people. But on the low side, it would be about 20. Number 6, sales rep reaches out again. Hey, just following up to find out when a good time for us to get on the phone and talk might be. Right? And you can even add a link to your calendar schedule. They can schedule the call too if you want to. I would experiment with that. We get varying results with that technique depending on industry and geographic location. So you have to play around with that to find out its effectiveness in your area and in your niche. But you're basically soliciting a scheduled call. People are more attentive during a scheduled call as opposed to you just kind of catching them off guard with a phone call. However, if they do not respond to this, then you want to just, catch them off guard, right? So give them a day. Give them a day to respond, right? If they don't respond in a day, the next day, go to number 7, right? You're going to call them. Call them on the phone. But notice that call doesn't happen as soon as they opt in. That's number 7, right? The text message is what happened right away. So the idea is that we want them to be effectively warmed up, know the name of your business, know the name of the sales rep, have a good understanding of who you are and what you do, because they've seen the overview. They've seen a couple of your ads already. You look high tech. You look professional. You look established. You look like you got your marketing intact, right? And then the sales guy calls. And you're using a script, an effective script. And you have 2 different scripts, one for when they pick up and one for when you get voicemail. And, you don't have to stay to the script verbatim, but if the script is done well, really well, I would recommend doing it. We write scripts for clients. We sell scripts for clients. And we put a lot of work into the scripts that actually do a great job at converting. And to put that in perspective, some of the scripts that we sell to our clients, we sell for upwards of $10,000. And I say that just to kind of give you an indication of how effective a proper script can be in your business. If you don't have one, I think you should think about it. You should think about it. Seriously. And people, you might think $10,000, that's a lot for a script. Not if it makes you 100. Our scripts convert. They work. But it takes time. You don't just sit there and make it up. You have to test it. You got to talk to people on the phone and then tweak it as you go. So we put a lot of work into creating winning scripts. And they're highly effective. I mean, we know that if we follow the script like to the letter, we're going to convert somewhere around 75% of our leads once we get them on the phone. And those are good numbers. So if you got 3 out of that needle in a hairy haystack, we should be able to easily close 2 of them on an estimate out of 25 leads. So if you're generating 25 leads a month, you should be selling, you should be selling 10% of those. 10% of those on an estimate, 2 out of 25, realistically speaking. And some do much more than that, 5 to 10 out of 25 on the high side. I wouldn't necessarily expect it. But realistically, 2.5 sales, 2 in somebody who's interested out of 25, sure. Sure, that's realistic. Then we go to number 8, sales rep follow-up. So what does that mean? You called, and of course you're going to follow up with an email. Hey, it was great talking to you earlier. If you made contact. If you didn't make contact, you're going to say, hey, I tried calling you earlier. Left a voicemail message. Hopefully we could connect maybe sometime before the weekend. Then number 9, call. Call again. It was worth a second call. And this is usually done back to back, like the following day. That way you can say, hey, I called yesterday, couldn't get in touch with you. Now, have a second script for this voicemail. Because this voicemail is your last opportunity. You can't really call them after this without really pestering them. And if they are looking to the future and they just want to kind of remember you, right? Make sure they remember you in a good light when they're ready to buy 6 months from now, right? Don't annoy them because, you could take a perfectly good lead and ruin it for yourself if you come off too aggressive or too eager. All right. So make sure you keep that in mind. But have a script. When you make that second call, have a script. And give them something more enticing. Like instead of just, hey, I'm just following up because, hey, I tried calling you yesterday and I didn't hear back from you. So, yeah, give me a call. Here's my number, right? That's a basic voicemail message. No, you want to tell them, hey, I was really hoping that I can get in touch with you before the end of the week because I have some great specials going on for this spring. So if you decide to get an estimate over the course of the next 30 days, then you'll be eligible to receive this and this and this for free if you should decide to move forward with us. Also, you're entitled to get a discount of up to this percent if we can get you scheduled, right, by the end of the week for an estimate, and you should decide to move forward at some point in the future, right? So give them some incentive because keep in mind that you're probably not the only contractor that they're talking to right now, assuming that you're a contractor, right? But, the same is true in any industry, right? If you're selling jewelry, same thing. We're having a great special this month on some on bracelets, diamond rings, watches, and earrings, right? That's like pretty much everything that you would buy at a jewelry store. It's all on sale, right? So come on in, and chances are something's gonna be on sale. Something's gonna be on sale, right? Get them into the door, right? Schedule that appointment, get them into the door, set them up for the test drive. You sell cars? Hey, I just wanted to let you know that if you schedule a test drive before the end of the week, and you should decide at some point to buy, I can get you, 2.5 points off of your APR. Whatever it is. I mean, if you're in car sales, you probably can't do that. No, you can't do that. But you know what I'm saying. It's hypothetical. Number 9, use a follow-up script. We already did number 9, didn't we? Number 10, beginning of standard sequence. All right, so after you get down here, if you still haven't made contact, you haven't gotten a proposal, then you just need to move them on. Move them on to the standard sequence of events. What's the standard sequence? The standard sequence is the rapport building. Think of it as frequently asked questions, right? What are some of the most common questions that people ask? Like, do you offer financing, right? If you're selling cars or, if you're doing, roofing, right? Somebody wants to know, do you have a source for financing? Should I go to my bank? How does that work, right? So answer that question in the form of an email, right? Send them the answer to the top 5 questions that you think that your prospect might be asking right now as it relates to your product or service offering. And you're going to be helping them along through that process. You could send them emails with subject lines like the top 3 this or the top 5 things that you need to look out for when you're shopping for a new car. 3 things to avoid when you're considering a new home project, that deck, that roof, that swimming pool, whatever it is, that automobile. Okay. And then send them a series of 5 of those emails. Okay. And on the fifth email, make them a soft offer, right? Just incentivize that last email with a link to a landing page to schedule an appointment now. Schedule an appointment now. Send them helpful information. Then ask them to do something. Offer a call to action. Right? Don't think that the lead's dead till the lead's dead. Remember the floral shop that's sending my wife emails 15 years later. That's the way it's done, folks. You want to close sales? That's the way you close it in this day and age, right? If you're going to be doing some digital marketing, you have to have a digital follow-up. And if you don't have that, your chances of success are far less likely. If you're still using 1990 sales tactics, in the year 2018, 19, 20, then you're missing it. You're missing a lot of value here. You could be building your business instead of throwing money away. Let me tell you something. 100% of all of our successful client initiatives are using an effective email strategy. Now, that's not a global statistic. That's not even a US statistic. That's just our statistic based on our own personal experience. The most successful of our clients have an effective email strategy in place. So do it yourself or hire somebody to do it. If you don't have it, so if you're generating leads right now and you're working with an advertising agency and they're bringing you leads, but those leads aren't converting, then we should talk. Ask them if they have, email. If they had something in place, you probably would have already opted in. Because they probably would have already pitched you on this. And if you really understand, recognize the value of an effective email campaign, then it's very, very well worth the initial, the additional price, right? So you don't want to be penny wise and dollar foolish, as they say, right? I want to only spend this much money, but I want to make all this, right? And then your ads guy tells you, look, this is my recommendation. If you're going to do this, I would add the email to it because you're going to get, far more success in that way. And maybe you were pitched on that. I don't know. If you were and you opted out of it, give it a second look. See if they can map out a strategy like I just showed you. You can even use the one that I just gave to you. You could take that anywhere you ask somebody, can you do this? But I wouldn't recommend copying somebody else's strategy. I would recommend developing your own. So we do every one on a case-by-case basis because I find that it's very seldom that the same exact strategy will work for even a business in the same industry. It's just, there's so many variables. And I don't have time to get into it now because I've been talking forever and my throat is sore. So if you have any questions, I want to, offer you the invitation to just reach out. You can contact us directly through our website. And I encourage you to do that. I mean, we're available. We try to make ourselves available to answer questions. We're not going to hard sell you anything. We're not that kind of company. We can, at the end of the day, we can either help you or we can't, and we leave that up to you to decide. We're here to try to convince you that we're the best option for you for email marketing or to run your Google ads or Facebook ads or, YouTube marketing, which, by the way, if you're in a high ticket, sales type of scenario like we're talking about here, you really need to look at these methods. If you're not working YouTube, you are missing so much opportunity. Like, let's get on the phone and talk about that. Seriously. Because they work together. They work together. You know that Google and Facebook work perfectly together. And it's so sad. Oftentimes, like our clients, they go to one company for Facebook, and another company for Google, and another company for YouTube. And 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 for good reason, because different companies have different specialties, right? And you want to go to the guy that specializes, in Instagram if you want to advertise on Instagram, right? Well, we're fortunate enough to be able to specialize not only in all four of those platforms, but also be able to share the data between each and retarget effectively and accordingly. And and so there's always an opportunity, no matter where you're at right now in your business, there's an opportunity to grow it by just adding one small thing to it. And a lot of times it's not going to cost you much more money. It might cost you some more money, and you might think, well, I'm not going to spend more until I'm making more. But there's the paradox, my friend. You might not make more if you don't spend just a little bit more. So be smart. Don't be penny wise and dollar foolish, right? Sometimes it just makes sense to spend a couple extra dollars and get it done right. Because if you are in the market for a $90,000 Mercedes, right, and they offer it to you, and air conditioning is optional, but it's going to cost you an extra $2,000. At that point, right, what are you going to do? I don't think anybody sells cars like that, but I remember growing up, like air conditioning, that was an option. You had to buy air conditioning, right? It was an upgrade. Oh, you wanted a tape player? Yeah, you got to pay extra to be able to put tapes in your car. Otherwise, you just get AM, FM radio. So cars are far more equipped now, right? And I think online marketing is going to be far more equipped also in the near future. I think what we're going to see is an emerging trend of ad agencies, companies, and I'm including us in this, that will not even take on a client if the client is not going to do the whole package. Because we know that your likelihood of success, the success that you're capable of, that we're capable of getting you, is going to be greatly intensified if if you're being wise with your spending, right? We don't want you spending, we want you investing, and you should be returning your investment. You should be receiving a return on your investment. If you're not, it might not be the fault of the people you're talking to on the phone that have expressed an interest. Don't blame it on other people. You need a system in place. And chances are your system is broken if you're not achieving the results that you desire. And if you don't know exactly why, then reach out to us. We can tell you why. Okay? We'll know very, very soon why it is that your leads are not converting, or what you can do to your current campaign to strengthen it and to make it more effective. I don't care who you're marketing with. Okay? We've been doing this long enough to very quickly look at what you have laid out and tell you where the breaks are. And chances are it might be because you were, penny wise and dollar foolish. One little tweak could make all the difference sometimes. So I hope you got some value out of this training. I thank you for investing all of the time, and I hope that time pays off for you in the future. But that's all the time that I have for now. And I hope that at some point, you might have the time to speak about whatever project that you're having, and seeing if we might be able to help you along with that. So keep us in mind. Visit us at socialloco.com, and and set up the time to talk if it makes sense for you to do so. Thanks. Again, my name is Shane. I'm at Social Loco at socialloco.com. Thank you for your time, and I'm wishing you the best in success.